Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Walk podcast. Today, for episode number 235 or 34, I believe, I have a wonderful guest, my new wonderful friend, Mr. Gary WohIman. He's an incredible person, incredible human being. He's a globetrotter, is a wonderful inspiration. He's originally from New York. Now he's been living in Australia for a long time. So a little Snapchat about his life. At 20, he moved from New York to San Francisco. And then at 30, he moved from San Francisco to Hawaii. And then at 40, he started visiting Australia and moved there in 1997 and has been happily living there ever since then. And then in 2020, he moved to Thailand. And then the timing was not the right timing, as we know, because of what happened in the world. And he came back to Australia, and now he's been living in a wonderful community and in the countryside. And is just enjoying it and is doing a lot of amazing things. He's a transformational coach. He's always been very physically active. He was a gymnast, springboard diving, track and field, and he used all these activities of energy to develop his own healing system to work with the body so that he can help. What he does is really something I love. He said is the architect of the soul, meaning that he helps people to free from what's holding them back, helping people freeing from the physical tension, the emotional baggage that's holding them back, and to express the full expression through the creativity, to let all the creativity flow. So he's doing a lot of amazing things. He's a phenomenal inspiration, and also a dream specialist. We've been talking for the past hour. He was helping me try to understand a wonderful dream I had early this morning. So, I just told him just before recording that me and you, Gary, we will more than likely do more than one episode together. And we could even start a podcast, just the two of us, me and you, because you have so much to share and so many topics. But anyways, without any further ado, Gary, brother, it's an honor having you on the show today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you, Payman. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine. So we will have a wonderful conversation because talking with you is really inspiring. And there was an ad back in the 90s. I don't know if you remember it, that said, "What do you want to become when you grow up?" And the ad was said, "I want to be like Mike," referring to like Michael Jordan. So for me, what do you want to become like when you grow up? And my answer would be, I want to be like Gary, live a life as fulfilling, as amazing, as fun as Gary. Because Gary, oh my God, you need to have a movie, you need to have a documentary, you need to have a book, a podcast about your life. And I'm not joking, because you've been blessed with an incredible life, my friend.
Well, it's really interesting to hear you speak like this, Payman, because before we had this part of the conversation, which we're now recording, we were talking about dreams, as you mentioned. And I was talking about, as I get older and wiser, that I find that whether I'm dreaming or dreaming my life awake, that it's all about the stories we tell ourselves. It's about the dialogue we tell ourselves. So I was thinking it would be really interesting to have a conversation with not just the dream, but our younger self. This is got way. This to me at her age, you can probably see a bit of resemblance. And I look at the eye of this being, and I have a conversation with myself. I say, dialogue is essential. Yeah.
All right, Gary. So that was, yes, please go ahead, Gary.
Sure. I love connecting with the unconscious and the subconscious through dreaming and other states where I'm able to navigate and negotiate conversations and dialogue in a way that wakes up a whole new phase of my life. We all have this ability. One way that we can dialogue is by taking an image of ourselves. This is an actual photo of me when I was really young.
Wow.
Yeah, that's me when I was like 1 year old.
Wasn't that this morning?
What's that?
Wasn't that this morning?
Yeah, that's how I woke up this morning, looking like this.
Beautiful.
And so often like to do and encourage people to do is take a favorite photo of you from an earlier phase, one that you like, and look at that and say, to my younger self, I now address you. You can do
Wow.
this with the dreams. You can do this with anything where there's different elements connected to start a dialogue. As they get wiser and elder, it's all about the stories and dialogue we tell that then becomes a compelling telling, welling, swelling that shifts our
I
entire
love that.
landscape of our inner and outer worlds. As your elder self, I want you to know that you've always been very eccentric. And throughout your life, you will have many experiences where you're going to feel like perhaps people see you as being weird or off the map. Yet stick with your guns. You don't have to conform. You are so gifted, so talented, so unique. As long as you're true to your purpose, you will be able to transform your own and other people's lives like there's no tomorrow, trusting your
Mhm.
creativity and your intuition. I am with you all the way. So
I
that's a real
love that.
conversation I'm having with my real younger self. And I encourage you who are listening to have a similar conversation that will evoke a greater connection between a disowned you and a future you, where you can come through with a greater confidence and connection with yourself, with anyone you communicate with, and with life itself. So these are one of the many tools I like to use in my presentation coaching, my body therapy, and awakening creativity.
That's beautiful. I love that. We're definitely gonna dive into that in a moment. But before we even go into that, for people who don't know you, over and beyond what I just, that was probably just scratching the surface of the surface. For people who don't know you, tell us, who's Gary as a person, human being? We're gonna talk about your business later on, but as a person, as a human being, who's Gary?
Yes, well, in my essence, I see myself as you mentioned architect earlier. I see myself as an archaeologist of the soul. What does that mean? I see myself as one that is dedicated to freeing the physical tensions, the emotional holding patterns and self-talk, keeping those tensions and blocked limiting beliefs in place. And then underneath that, one layer again, underneath that is that massive creativity, which we all have. Yet the creativity cannot be released unless the physical tensions are released, the emotional holding patterns are released, and then out like a pilot flame in the candle rises this ignition that's always been there. It's always been there. So how I see myself as one who is on a mission, I've always felt this way, to free the physical, emotional, and creative elements of any being, any creature I come across. It doesn't have to be human. I love the ability to bring life to greater life. This is how I see myself and my purpose here, to awaken sleeping, stuck, stubborn, stiff elements that are bound in our landscape, and I see it as bound to release. So my whole work in freeing the physicality of the body through deep stretches with my elbows and forearms and soft fists, fingers, knuckles, and thumbs and knees occasionally, while stretching the muscles of the body and speaking at the same time in affirmations, in rhyme, like Dr. Seuss, to take people on this very whimsical journey, vision quest, through their self-talk, and immediately shift, and instantly shift their relationship to their bodies, their relationships, their partners, their communication, their creativity, and their contribution to humanity. That's who I
Beautiful.
am. That's who I am, and that's my essence. I'm that way whether I'm alone in a waterfall, making sounds of ah, ee, I, ooh, ooh, the five vowels. And I use those to open and awaken the widening here through nurturing myself, the inspiration to connect with. It's safe for me to share my wisdom with others, to open the next center. The I am presence that goes right through the body, through the spine, to the center of the molten earth. And then those five sounds that I repeat in the waterfall here where I live every day. I do them 5 times, 5 sounds,
Oh,
and then I feel like I've ignited this pilot flame within me that's ready to, through nurturing, inspiring, and empowering, everything in my life makes sense. And I'm a radiant being as a result. It's a practice. We all have this
yes.
ability. Joyful discipline.
Beautiful. What an answer. I love that. Love that. So what I usually like to do on my podcast, I like to have a look under the hood, so to speak, to see what's under the hood, to get to know you as a person, human being, have a heart-to-heart conversation, hence the name Leaders with a Heart. So to start to do that, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid-fire questions to further get to know you.
Great.
Ready?
I love it.
Ready? All right. So tell me, what makes you happy as a person? And a short
What
answer.
yeah. What makes me happy as a person is physicalizing and multi-sensorizing
Love that.
experience. So when I jump into the waterfall and I do what I just said that I do, which is tones that match certain keywords, colors, and expressions, I feel a radiant joy, a clarity, and a connection with my intuition that makes me so happy. I am able then to share that light. It's a sacred responsibility, I feel, to share that light.
Sure.
Yet that happiness is an ongoing, joyful discipline, moment to moment practice. It doesn't ever end. That makes me
Beautiful.
happy.
Beautiful. Now, what makes you smile?
What's that?
What makes you smile?
What makes me smile? That's such an interesting question, because when I was very young in grade school, when I was 10, 11, 12, people always commented on what a big and beautiful smile I have. And why do I smile? My smile seems to come out of a feeling of trusting my
Mm-hmm.
body as an instrument of communication that I fine tune. And that smile comes from being in attunement and atonement at one-ment with my instrument.
Mm-hmm.
What also makes me smile is rhyming like that and not thinking about what to say, and then the rhythm comes out and the rhyme comes out and out comes this sweetness and creativity without censoring myself. That makes me smile no end. When I don't have to censor myself, out comes wisdoms that just waffle and waft through in wonderful ways.
Beautiful. Now let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your soul come alive? What sets your heart on fire?
Self-expression. When I see a soul, another soul, whether it's a human or an animal or even myself, fully expressing it, her, she, we, itself, to the extent that I'm in tears, just enjoy witnessing the magnificence of that being fully expressing its artfulness. That soulfulness touches me no end. When I watch figure skating championships where the two are skating together, the interplay of these two humans moving together like a duet in a song touches me like nothing else. To see the magnificence of beings in synchrony, in
How about
synchronicity,
synchronized the swimming?
that's also something powerful, but it doesn't quite touch my soul in that way.
Okay.
I'm talking about when a song comes through,
Mm.
like I've had a number of songs that have come through in my life, and maybe 15, 20 songs. And actually, I like to sing in song. I like to think in song rather than keeping things in word. They have to be so limited. The sound, the song, the frolickiness sets free my inner light. So that sets my soul on fire to see, whether it's in myself or another, that ignition, that spark of creativity, that suddenly there's a smile, suddenly there's a feeling of a fluidity in movements with the gestures, with the eyeballs, with the connection with the deepest knowing, flowing, glowing. And so rhyming for me is another way of connecting to that
I can see
beautiful,
that. Yeah.
soulful. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Yeah. Well, it's not always the same. What makes me sad is not always what makes me angry. I'm going to take them separately.
Sure.
So, yeah. So what makes me sad is when I feel misunderstood because I'm
Mm,
so uniquely eccentric. Well, for the other, I'll give you an example. That's when I give examples. When I teach my presentation coaching, I'm always teaching point example applications. So the point
love that.
about when a person is I'm sad and angry is best illustrated by an example. Just a couple of days ago, we had a garden party where we all cooked things that we have in our gardens. We all have gardens here. It's followed by an open mic. And I performed in the open mic that night. Was this just last night? It was just last night. The my favorite poem. I have a favorite poem I love to share with audiences that just touches my heart and soul and psyche like none other. A poem about ways that we as humans have known, loved, hurt, lost, and found each other again. A very beautiful piece. And so I shared it at this open mic, and people weren't listening. They're all having different conversations and they were all involved in themselves. And I felt really sad. And I left early because I felt like they didn't hear me. And so to overcome the sadness, I sent a message to everybody, and we have a Google's group here. And I said, for those of you, because someone said I didn't really hear it, who've missed those words and the actual lyrics of this beautiful song and poem, I'm including them here so you can hear it without distractions. And that lifted my spirit. So I turned around the sadness. So not being misunderstood or not heard has made me
Mm-mm.
sad. Angry, I've had a number of experiences in my life over the last 10 years since my mom and dad both passed away. I received quite a generous inheritance. And because I'm such a trusting person and a bit gullible, I put that money into one financial scam after another, and I
Oh
lost
no.
over $700,000, half of my family inheritance from basically believing in people who looked like they were saying the right thing, and I couldn't tell the difference. So I really angry with myself and these people for basically creating a big lie and having me fall into it. And so, at this stage, rather than hold on to the anger, I know it's important that I forgive myself and these souls to be open to the flow. I am such a creative being of being able to, one of the creative things I do when I'm sitting in the waterfall is to envision myself on the other side of all this loss, and the anger from the loss and the resentment and the bitterness, and to see that I am indeed the flow itself, and I'm able to create something far even greater than what I felt I lost. So I'm constantly
Totally.
navigating and decisioning in my consciousness to move through that anger and pain that I carry as everyone else carries. So that's my
Mm,
way of moving through it.
absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what scares you other than
Ah,
spiders?
no, it scares me. It's interesting because I'm not feeling afraid these days. It's interesting you
Beautiful.
ask me that. 'Cause I've gone through a series of powerful meditations and rituals and ceremonies in my life that have brought me to the place of facing the unknown.
Mm.
And in the past, the unknown would have scared me, but because I've been making all these leaps from one country to another, from one state of consciousness to another, from one lifestyle to another, from one name change to another, from one way of living now off the grid, I'm actually become a stand for moving into the unknown. So what used to be scary for me, which was moving into the unknown or death, is no longer. I feel like I with relish, I move into unknown waters, and now I'm a bit of a guide and mentor for others to do the same. What am I scared of? I'm 71 right now. I'm in great shape for my age.
I
I
told you, you
had,
don't look a day young older than 45, you know? So I said I want to
yeah,
look like I want to be like Gary when I'm when I reach that age, you know?
A lot of people tell me that, and it's because I have a dedication, a devotion to being as physical and alive as possible, that I've kept this
Mhm.
body as young as possible. So about 6 years ago, 7 years ago now, I was riding a bicycle. I cut my shin, and the cut didn't heal, and I wound up having a lot of pain. One day I was doing a big presentation being televised, and I couldn't walk, couldn't move, couldn't stand. I was in extreme pain. Someone suggested I get an MRI, and it turned out I was going to go into sepsemia within a few hours if they didn't cut my back open for emergency spinal surgery and laminectomy. Well, I was scared at that moment in the hospital that I would become a gimp with this amazingly acrobatic, fluid, expressive being and body, that I would never be the same. And I made a decision in that moment. I made a decision that anytime my body, my finances, a relationship, anything in my life falls apart, I choose to upgrade. And
Wow.
that choice took me from a place of fear to I'm practicing more inner practices than ever. I'm more conscious than ever, more awake than ever, more willing to be in service to the Creator for creation than ever, and in service to all souls who I'm graced to meet. Through moving through that fear and stepping up, I choose to upgrade. So if I'm afraid or something is falling apart or breaking down, I choose to upgrade. That's how I move through it. And pass it on for anyone here. What is your new compelling telling, welling, swelling when you are afraid or angry or in pain, that will lift you to a new way above the problem, that you can move through in a good and healthy and powerful, enhancing, nurturing, inspiring way. This is a choice, and for me, it's a moment-to-moment choice.
That's fascinating. Please expand on what do you mean that's a time for you to uh to upgrade.
Upgrade.
What do you mean by
Yeah.
that? How do you achieve that?
Well, for example, when I was in the hospital laying on my back with all the stitches in my back, and I couldn't move and I couldn't sleep on anything but my back was half stitched up, half my back was stitched up, but the whole bottom half of my back was cut wide open. I remember saying to myself, I choose to upgrade. And what do I mean by that? Well, for example, ever since that time, this was 7 years ago, even though I was already physically active and I did my sports and I did my meditations and my movement, meditation, expression, dancing all the time, 5 rhythms dance classes, and I become a dancing freedom facilitator, I've upped the ante of giving myself more time and attention every day to go inwards, to practice practices that help me feel attuned with this instrument of communication, this body that we have. And so I've chosen to give myself more nurturing, empowering, and inspiring attention as a way of upgrading. In relationships, or if something falls apart or breaks down, I get a better model if I can, or I choose a better model than what I thought I lost or that I'll never get back again. So it's just a matter of, I'm very creative, so I'll pick something more colorful or more vibrant, or a better model of what I thought I lost before. It's simply a choice, and using a lot of creative imagination to do
So
so.
do you visualize the perfect, for example, let's say you're sick, you're in hospital, your back is open. You visualize yourself as being fully healthy, vibrant, full of energy again. This is
I
what you
didn't.
play in.
It took me months to get to that state. I couldn't do that when I was in such pain.
Sure.
I didn't have no, I didn't. But I'll tell you some things that brought me to a new level of courageous expression. I
Mm.
do best by giving you examples. So there I was, about a month after the operation. I was at home, and I had a hospital team that was giving me massive amounts of what do you call that? The penicillin and
Painkillers,
the
yeah.
antibiotics, injecting me in the morning, injecting me in the evening, so to be sure that I knock out any possibility of the staph infection from my body. So this was 9 in the morning and around 5 in the afternoon. And I had signed up months before to do a presentation of my Transforming Your Message with Your Body and Your Voice interactive workshop at a men's retreat that
Mm.
was about 3 hours away. And I was telling myself, oh no, poor me, I can't go. And then I suddenly had a revelation. wait a minute. If I get my first injection at 9 in the morning and I drive my car for
No
3 hours
way.
to this men's retreat, I could have lunch with the guys, I could do my presentation, and I could get home in time for my second injection. Well, that's exactly what I did. And the guys thought I was like totally heroic and courageous to do such a thing. But for me, it was like, why would I want to sit at home feeling sorry for myself when I had such aliveness and awaken and a step up? This is a form of upgrading that I could
Sure.
share with.
Wow.
And God, that was a great thing that I did. I didn't do it to be great. I did it because I had, I feel so good when I'm in service. We all do.
Sure.
I felt so good to be able to give of my essence and wake people up to their fullest expression and deal with their pain, deal with their holding back pain, and be there for them. And when I did that, God, did I feel good. Yes, that was a big moment for me. So that's another example of upgrading. That was a real powerful one.
Did you make it back on time for your 5 o'clock shots?
Well, actually, I was going back so fast in my car that I had a car accident with the
Oh no.
and I had to have the car towed. I did go to the hospital, and instead of them coming to my home, I got the same injections at the hospital by waiting in emergency for the inject. And my car, I got the car fixed. Hundreds of dollars of damage for going so fast. I went faster than I could. I was like going
Wow.
110
Wow.
just to get there, but it didn't hit anything. I just kind of went into a field, and the whole bottom of the car kind of broke open with the oil spilling out. So yeah, that was that's a part of the story I don't often tell. But every hero has a bit of a vulnerable side too, right? So
Sure.
hey, that's part of the story.
Would have been
Our
easy.
vulnerability is our strength. My vulnerability is my strength.
Absolutely.
Your vulnerability is your strength.
Love that. Would have been easier for you to do the presentation online?
What's that?
Wouldn't have been easier for you to do that presentation online instead of you driving all the way to there?
No, not at all. Because I worked with about 20 brothers that were in the room, and I helped enact with them what I do when I do my mastering the
Mm,
presentation skills with my YouTube channel, and I do my other work online. The work that I did there was I took people one at a time back to moments in their life where they froze, where they held back their self-expression or their confidence. And I helped replay that moment, utilizing all the brothers in the room to play out the different characters in the story, the mother, the father, the sister, the brother, the teacher, the lover, and exaggerating, because I like using theatrical tools and techniques, their worst fears by making the situation Monty Python-like, even bigger than life, by exaggerating the situation with everybody there physically, viscerally in the room. People were crying, people were laughing, people were dancing, people were singing, and the person who is going through the vulnerability of their drama or their trauma released it with the support and the witnessing of all the brothers, and my physically being able to work with them, turning the whole group into a moving sculpture and a piece of art form. I don't think I could do that online. Not nearly as well.
I
No.
can see that. Yeah. No, no, no. It's something that are better done in person. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
However, since COVID and whatever you want to call this has struck, since I was in Thailand, ready to move there in 2020, I was actually part of a holistic center. I was asked to be part of this team when I came back. There's been so many opportunities to do this online connection. I never had these opportunities before. So now I'm doing a lot of teaching, a lot of counseling, a lot of work, particularly one-on-one with people online. And it's a wonderful space to be able to do this with one person at a time, to go to that depth, because there's no one else watching, and there's a safety in me being able to use my sensitivity, my playfulness, and the ability to cut to the chase to help people renegotiate their self-talk and move in a good way to new relationships with themselves, their bodies, their communication, their creativity, and their contribution to humanity. So I really like the online space to be able to do this now in small groups and one-on-one online. It's lovely, yet it doesn't compare to the visceral connection. It just doesn't.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
My number one personal superpower is my ability to be creative and to turn a moment into something that has a lasting reverberation and magnificence to it. Suddenly a song may come to mind from having had a very difficult or painful situation, and the song, when sung, then helps awaken all those in my presence to their own greatest calling. Different songs have come through over the years that have put me into a place as the court jester. That's why I was playing out this court jester character, to feel more at home with ourselves, and also to awaken a greater gift of being able to connect more deeply with each other. I'd like to sing you one of my songs.
Please.
Yeah. Now, which one am I going to sing? Okay. This song came to me once when I had first moved to Hawaii. It was 1980. I was in my I wasn't even 30. Wow. And it was around Thanksgiving time, and I felt so grateful to be in this new place, in this gorgeous place where everything was alive. Even the fences grew back into trees. The life force is so powerful in Hawaii. And I remember this song came to me called Grateful. And sometimes when I've sung this song, I've sung this hundreds of times, I feel like the song is singing me. And there's something, whether I'm in the character of the court jester with my three-horned hat and harlequin outfit and face paint, now I don't need costume, I just sing it. Something about this superpower, about being able to turn an evocation into a ritual that awakens people's awareness like none other. So I'm going to sing you this song, and I'd love to hear your honest feeling of what has been received by you when I sing it. It's a song of gratitude, and it goes like this. I'm grateful for the things that last, grateful for those that pass. Grateful is this song I sing, close to my heart, with full presence of wing. Grateful is this dance we dance, passing through here, our souls in hands. Passing through here, we add good to this place. Our lasting visions, awakening the race. We're grateful to cooperate, for in blessing together, create beauty in our faith. And awakening, radiating joy, 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 joy through each other. We are born to heal ourselves and one another. We are born to celebrate ourselves and one another.
Beautiful. Love it. Wow.
That song just came through once. When I sing it, and when I sing it with full feeling, and I take time not to rush the words, I really feel like something is transmitted that is an awakening of people's consciousness. So when I'm creative, whether it's writing a song, doing a painting, these days doing a lot of videoing, I love this. I love the online space of being able to navigate the online space and be able to connect with fellow humans, to show a way of connecting with our humanity that perhaps we didn't before because we've been suppressed or pushed back. So in these days, rather than singing songs, I'm more focused on utilizing, frankly, this online space to wake up fellow humans to our fullest expression, honoring of our deepest connection to our core, and to be able to share that with others in a way that is catalytic and converts and helps others move through this cocooned glue God knows we are here to, at this stage, create new stories, fresh glories. We dance and sing. Yes, we are awakening. Yes, we are remembering. So that combination of song, verse, ritual, and sharing that with fellow humans, whether that's live or in a recorded session like this, for me, is where my superpower of creative expression. If left alone and I'm creative,
Mm,
I feel like I wake up and it wakes the whole world. Everything makes sense when I tap into being creative.
beautiful. And those songs, those inspiration, do you feel that they're being like channeled through you?
You know, what's the word channels? You know, I remember Guru Bhyanananda, who's a wonderful
Mm,
speaker, saying, you know, the whole world is television. You telling me your vision, I telling you my vision. It just all depends what channel you're on. You know, we're all channeling. We're all channeling at every moment, and it's not a
mm,
big deal. Of course, it's channeling, and yet I don't make it a big deal. Channeling, what is channeling? Channeling is tapping into the creator, tapping
yes.
into the essence of God, goddess, goodness, all that
Higher
is.
self.
And when I tap into that higher self and I feel the wisdom of my higher self, the wisdom of my heart, the wisdom of my body, all speaking at once, then channeling simply becomes recognizing the signs, the murmurings, the moments, the murmurings that are all messages from the unconscious through the body as the instrument of communication. So channeling is just, for me these days, when I do body therapy or when I'm doing my
Mm,
coaching work, it's cutting and pasting this constellation of conversations with connects us all. So when I can pick this frame, that word, this song, that phrase, this intention, that image, and I just put it together, I don't think about it. It just comes together in this wonderful stew. When I don't think about it, it comes together even better than
mm,
when I attempt to figure out how to do it. For example, channeling. I've been doing so much body therapy in my life with my hands that these days, when I'm looking for something, I could look forever when I think about where did I put it. But if I pick my hand and I trust just reaching it for a moment, I'll land on the object I was looking for, maybe in 2 seconds, maybe in 3 seconds, because I'm trusting the channel of intuition of which I am connected, of which we're all connected. So it's not a big deal. We're all channeling. When we get the hocus pocus out of the way, then every moment is a miracle. Every single thing we can do, think, and say is an expression of this intuition, into me see, intimacy. It's all
mm.
about this play of words that connects us with our deepest well of wisdom. It's always there. It's a matter of just recognizing the signs and tapping it.
Love that. Wow, that's powerful. I love how you connect some words like into me, intimacy, and all that. That's so beautiful.
I love playing with words. These
Oh,
days,
yeah.
since I'm not physically to be as physically acrobatic as I did once, I do it underwater with spins and twists and meditations and intonation. I love to play acrobatics with words and using words in a good way that turns around the meaning and expressions. Here's a good one for you. When I do my presentation coaching with people, whether it's online or in person, and someone says, I have to do this. And something that they have to get into a new phase of life, new stage, new expression, new ability, skill they want to bring out. I say, wait a minute. Notice the difference when you say these words. I have to do this, and
I want to do
I
it.
have this to do. I have to do this. I have this to do. It's the same words, but we've changed the order around. So by playing with the words of I have to do this, which is urgency, emergency, fight, flight, freeze, to I have this to do, it creates an invitation rather than a compulsion and obligation. From that invitation, wisdom parades and pageants and pleasantries all the way through. There's something about being playful with words that brings out a deeper connection with the unconscious that I love.
Beautiful. Love that. Wow. I can listen to you for hours.
This
Let's
is not
move.
just our first conversation. I'm sure we're going to have many more.
We haven't even we just finished the introduction. So we've been like 40 minutes. This is gonna be a 2 or 3 part show, but anyway, I'm loving it. So now let's move forward. Let's talk about traveling. You like travel, right? Traveling?
I have enjoyed traveling outside and inside. These
All right.
days, more inside than outside. I have traveled all over this earth, and I love travel. Take me on a journey.
All
Let's
right.
go further.
Now let me take it down. We can do an entire episode just on your traveling experiences. We might do that in the future, but now I'm going to take you down to a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you're a young boy growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, teachers, friends, always ask us, so Gary, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer as a young boy to that question?
Well, I remember this. My uncle, who was a surgeon and owned a hospital, gave me a book when I was 10 years old. And I think around the same time, I got a microscope from my dad. And the book was about, I forget the actual name of the book, but it was about inventors and inventions. And I looked at this book and I said, I'm supposed to create something. I'm in tears now. I'm supposed to create something in this world that has never been here before. I'm supposed to
Wow.
invent something like in this book, and I'm going to bring something to this earth that I'm supposed to do. I'm going to be an inventor of something that's never been brought into this world before. And I am. I
Yes.
knew that.
Yes. Yes. Wow. So growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or did you hate school?
I was good at school. I was in school when I, besides being a good student, I was also athletically
Mm.
very, very accomplished. And springboard diver, champion springboard diver, gymnast, track star. And I went to a private school in New York City called Horace Mann, a very um, upper echelon type of school, only about 100 kids in each class. And in the graduating ceremony of that school when I was 18, before going on to college, I was the one student that got the award, the headmaster's award for the one student that had the best combination of athletics and academics. And you know something? That's become my whole life, working with the body and the mind together, giving rhyming affirmations and new self-talk while working with the physiology of the body. It's always been my way. And so
Mhm.
it's very interesting that I've never lost that connection between my body and spirit, and actually even more now than before. Yeah, I loved school when I was younger. And then when I went to college, I was also then a champion springboard diver, and then I became social chairman of my fraternity, and I had other interests that started to take over than being at school, like discovering my inner journey, my inner life. Springboard diving was actually a pathway for me to find my inner connection to myself. That was a very powerful way of going inwards and finding and discovering abilities within myself. If I could do this with my body, I could do this with my mind. I could bring great things out into this world. And that's what's happened. It's
Beautiful.
been an amazing.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Say that again slower.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Oh, well, psychology. Yeah,
Mm.
when I in college, I went to Johns Hopkins University. Something magical happened when I was studying psychology. I remember whether it was studying developmental psychology or the Freud and Erickson, Jung, something about when I would read something in psychology, or I'd hear a tape, and I would immediately absorb the information and be able to recall it instantly. Something about psychology. I became a body's body psychotherapist, and with my body therapy, like a clinical psychologist with the expressive arts and transformational work in the humanitarian area. So something about this connection together has been, again, such a powerful journey. You're saying to me, give me your question again.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Psychology, yeah. So
Okay.
it was because it came so easily. It wasn't because I liked it. It was because it was almost as though I knew it without knowing it. Well, there is something else about that. You see, when I was in high school before going to college, I had the opportunity in New York City to meet with J.L. Marino, who founded psychodrama and brought it from Europe
Mm.
to New York, right? Just very close to where I was living. And so I took endless classes in psychodrama when I was 18. And so for me, psychology was way more than reading the books. It was about physicalizing it through theater on stage. So I had a deep understanding of the visceral connection of psychology. Perhaps that's why I liked it so much, because I experienced it in a theatrical, playful way, even with tears and, huge amount of pain and angst that was expressed on stage. There was something about ritualizing situations that allowed me to take psychology from the head and bring it into the body and the spirit.
Beautiful. Wow. Was there any subject in school that you did not like at all?
Yes.
Math?
No, I was good at math. I was really good at math. Yeah, I was good at math in high school. What I didn't like
Hmm.
was, well, actually, integral calculus in college. I could not figure it out at all. When I was in high school and I was studying geometry, because I was so much into gymnastics, I could feel the relationship of of objects moving through space. I dreamed that way. So that was really easy for me, geometry. But when I got into integral calculus in college, I couldn't get it. And then different forms of chemistry and things. I was a pre-med student, but the psychology was really what came to life. I remember I wrote an autobiography when I was 20 years old for Dr. Schaffer, who is the head of the
Wow.
psychology department, and it was like a 200, 300 page volume of my inner thoughts and my studying and reading Hermann Hesse and my understanding of psychology. And I was deep diving into consciousness even back then. So the psychology really took over. But the calculus and chemistry, it's like I couldn't even understand what it was. And even though I was a pre-med student. So yeah, the psychology took over. My love for the connection between our psyche, our spirit, and the physicality of our full self-expression. This is always what's turned me on.
Beautiful. Do you still have a copy of that autobiography that you wrote when you were 20?
Yeah, I do.
Ah,
I have it in
amazing.
my container here near where I live. It's in two thick volumes, and it's a combination. When I was reading Hermann Hesse when I was around 16, Siddhartha and all of his
Mhm.
beautiful books, I began to do journaling. Not only did I begin to do journaling, but I began to, those little composition books. They're the ones that have the dots on the outside, and they're about
Yes.
100 pages. People use them for art or music and so on. I filled up about 30 of those books in about 6 or 7 or 8, 10 years. Every day I was journaling and entering. But the interesting thing about it was I wasn't just journaling. I was numbering every page, circling every theme, and listing the in the glossary or the index every subject with all the page numbers of all the subjects that I've been writing about for 8 years in these journals. So that
Wow.
was a great part of my journey. I don't have those books anymore, but out
Wow.
of those books came this autobiography. So they're all basically little excerpts from those days, that particular
Do you have any
two
plan of
volume.
publishing that autobiography from
Nah,
when you're 20? It would
no
be
interest in
fun.
what's that?
Would be
No,
fun.
it'd be fun, but I don't have an interest in publishing it. I've reached a phase also with my YouTube channel now, Mastering
Mm,
Presentation Skills, of taking the best of my writings and my poems, my songs, my paintings, my stories, my videoed moments, and putting those into a form that can be easily offered to humanity. Otherwise, people can't relate to all the stuff. So I'm more
sure.
focused on bringing out the best of the best within me and within everyone else I meet. That's where my focus these days.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. What was your first job?
My first job, I was 16 years old.
And
I
do you
was
remember?
teaching.
And do you remember how much you were getting paid for that first job?
I have no idea. It wasn't much, but I remember My first job was teaching cartwheels
Wow.
to all levels of people who are at this day camp, Badger Day Camp. I was teaching for a whole week. This is my first job. How to do cartwheels and roundhouse because I was into gymnastics even at an early age. For a whole week, I was teaching nothing but cartwheels. It was my first job. I loved it.
Beautiful. Wow. Now that's a beautiful job. So imagine that if you were in school, say in grade 10, 11 at the same time, what kind of student were you? Were you the life of the school? Were you the shy one? Were you the geek one? Were you tell us about what kind of student, what kind of friend would you have been back then if you were in the same class back, say in grade 10 or grade 11?
Well, I went through different phases, okay? When I was age 10 and 11, I was captain of the Bicycle Safety Patrol Committee. I was, a real leader. I was, a leader in that role, and I was also very athletic, and I was very much a good student, and I was pleasing my parents, and I was really into it. When I was moving to junior high school at age 12, there were a number of people in my classes that were not very smart. And I used to make fun of them when I went home. My parents thought there was something wrong with me. And so they sent me to a private school, Horace Mann, this very fine, high, falutin high school, where I didn't have time to play for my entire teenage years. I was working all the time, or I was doing springboard diving and gymnastics or track. So I was very much in my own interior world, achieving grades and achieving accomplishments on the athletic field, but I wasn't really social because I didn't have time to be social. I was very much in my development as a athletic and an intellectual being, and I wasn't social. And then when I went to college, it changed again. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm so repressed. I'm going to make up for all this. And that's when I became social chairman of the fraternity. And I started having all these girlfriends, and I got into
Ooh.
theater, improvisational theater, and broke free of a lot of the beginnings of realizing how inhibited I was as a model student all those years before. So I wouldn't say I was ever the life of the party. I was very focused, as I still am. It really hasn't changed, on the artistic, athletic, and intellectual integration. That's always been my passion. I wouldn't say I was a loner, but I was I was eccentric and weird. People, I remember one person in school, we were driving back and forth in a taxi, and he said, "Oh, you're speaking in Wohlmanese. I don't know what you're talking about." Because to be different and to be heard, and before I became the court jester years later, I feel like I made myself into this exceptional character so I could have my own individuality be recognized rather than try to fit into the mold, because I knew I couldn't fit into the mold. I never fit into the mold, even though I was a star in their eyes. I always felt like I didn't fit, that I was
Mhm.
wildly eccentric. And then when I came out as a court jester, and when I was 30, when I moved to Hawaii, that was a way that I could authenticize my eccentricity in a way that the jesters in the days of old were the ones that could share the wisdoms with the king about the king's going to get killed, but doing it in the form of poetry or a play where they wouldn't get their own head cut off. So that became a way of me getting noticed and being able to be recognized by being different, by leaping into creativity like there was no tomorrow. So that takes you beyond school to where I could substantiate my eccentricity and be recognized for it without having to fit in or trying to fit in to other people's movies. So yeah, so I'm a stand for people's discovering their own individual unique expression and bringing it out into the world as a result.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now let's move forward. Let's talk about your path from the moment you left school to now. So we're gonna go step by step. So you mentioned that you at one point you were in pre-med. Did you
That's right.
pursue that, or did your path change after that?
Okay. When I was 20, I graduated from college and I
Mm-hmm.
applied to probably about 50 medical schools, and I didn't get in. And I had an opportunity at that point to take some more studies and to apply again for medical schools the second year in a row. By this time, when I did that, I noticed my whole body got very constipated, and I physically didn't feel inspired about the process. I felt like I was, literally all blocked up within myself, and I didn't get into medical school. I did have an opportunity to travel to Guadalajara in Mexico, or to go to France or Spain or something and go into medical schools there, but I wasn't willing to make the shift. And one day, this is an important story, I traveled from New York, where my family was, to visit a fraternity brother from that fraternity that I was social chairman at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, to meet his father, who was a psychiatrist, because I was telling myself up to that point that I wanted to be a child psychiatrist. And so I met this man. I traveled up to Boston to meet this man. And he sat there with me. I remember this vividly because this was a turning moment in my life, this story I'm about to share with you. He turned to me and he had asked me, why do you want to become a doctor? And I told him my reasons. And he looked at me and he said, son, I see in front of me someone that's just described power, prestige, position, security, wealth, finances, yet who I see in front of me is a caring, creative, humanistic soul. Have you heard about the California schools of professional psychology and the new field of the human potential movement that's just forming? You, with your gifts of creativity and expression and your connection with humanity, would find your own way so much better, following your own wisdom, your own truth, your own tuition, not trying to fit into your parents' movie. Well, I left his house, and for the first time that I can ever remember in my life, now I teach this, I was walking down the streets of Boston, and I was shouting out loud on the street. My whole body was shouting, yes, 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 yes. I felt a yes, a visceral yes that connected me, my deepest knowing, from someone who recognized my humanity, my soul. When I presented, I want to be a doctor, he said, oh, wait a minute. I see who's in front of me, and I'm going to tell you what I see. And you know what? Now, with that same energy, well, about 3 weeks later, I said to my mom and dad with these two huge suitcases, Mom and Dad, I'm leaving home. My mom knew I was never coming back. It was the one time she said she ever cried in her life. And I went to apply to these California schools of professional psychology. I didn't get in, but I opened up a whole life of entering body therapies, all these humanistic psychologies, my deep dive into who I've become as an adult, getting into painting, art, creativity, all of these wonderful healing modalities, and discovering my own through that pathway of letting go of trying to fit in to someone else's movie. It's interesting. When I was in San Francisco and I was doing all these studies, I then hungered, like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, to go back home. So I went back to New York, and I didn't do the body therapy and all that I've been learning from all these wonderful masters for years. And yet something strange happened. They say primogeniture in the feudal ages, when you want to really have a field be fertile, you want to leave some of it empty for a period of time. So I didn't practice my body therapy for about 3-4 years, but something amazing happened when I didn't practice it during that time. This healing modality that came through me years later came when I stopped practicing. This ability to be the archaeologist of the soul and to be able to free people's physical layers of tension and then the emotional layers of tension after, to free the creative gifts of expression, came by realizing the combination of working with breath, sound, visualization, waters falling, sunrise lifting, with these at the same time. That's become my modality, connecting breath, sound, visualization, stretching, and rhyme. that multi-sensory, multi-dimensional process allows an immediate encoding of the new self-talk and the muscle memory while stretching the muscles on the exhalations, while the self-talk is being administered and planted into the landscape of the body at the same instant. People have instantaneous, substantial, sustainable shifts in their relationship with their body, their partnerships, their communication, their creativity, and their relationship to humanity. So that's been my life path. I've become a doctor. I've become a PhD doctor. I went to the Institute, the International University of Professional Studies. A friend of mine is the chancellor of it, IUPS. It's in Hawaii and California. And I basically have a PhD in transpersonal psychology and expressive arts, which is so much true to my own nature. I've become a doctor in my own right.
Beautiful, beautiful. So when you decided not to go to the traditional medical route, but to go to what you were more in line with your soul, how was the reaction of your parents? Were they supportive? Were they disappointed? How was the reaction?
They were disappointed. And when I wouldn't listen to their advice at that stage about getting into real estate or something, my father was a CPA. He had one of the most successful ever private chartered public accountants in New York City. I wouldn't follow his path either. They were upset that I wouldn't follow the norm. And so around that time, I went back. I received someone's invitation to join them in California and to continue with the body therapy and to continue. Now I helped create like a vision for creating centers for body therapy. And then when I moved from LA to Hawaii, as I mentioned earlier, when right after I bought this beautiful Jester head,
Yes.
stick, I bought this at a Renaissance festival. When I bought this stick, which called to me, because I had all this creativity, you see, from my body therapy and all these processes that was pouring out of me, poems, plays, art, all these different ways of being creative. When I moved to Hawaii, I mentioned earlier before this recording that I met a woman who was a costume designer at the University of Hawaii, and she knew that I did my form of body therapy, very sophisticated form of freeing the physical, emotional, creative elements of one's being. So I traded with her, giving her like 10 sessions for making this beautiful Harlequin outfit with the Jester hat that I still have. And I came out, some people come out, they come out and being gay. I came out as a court jester, which is kind of an androgynous character anyway. When my parents heard that I became a court jester, that was the end. They thought that they really did something wrong. Oh my God.
Maybe his own you. He lost his marbles.
We sent you to the best camps. We sent you to the best schools. We've given you the best education, and you've thrown it away. You're a court jester. What have we done wrong? I could not fit into their movie. And from the court jester, that was the beginning of developing improvisational skills that I utilize now to coach people to be free, flexible, flowing in their ability to communicate and get out of the box, whether they're in corporate or they're a speaker or developing speaker and bringing out their gifts. So all of these tools, by following my intuition my entire life and saying yes to what my whole body was recognizing deep inside, I have charted my own course in a way that there was no path, there was no map for me. I had to create my own, and now I'm a mentor for others that are scared to move into the unknown and discover their own gifts that are already waiting, the creative gifts under the emotional holding patterns, under the physical tension. So I've created pathways to help free people to awaken to this truth of who they truly are.
Beautiful. So how long did it take for your parents not to accept that you want to go your own way, but also to realize that, hey, maybe that's best for him. That's how he's going to be really fulfilled and happy. Let's be supportive of him. Let him make the best of what he wants in his life. So how long did it take for your parents to come to that stage, that conclusion?
My father was nearly on his deathbed. It was
Oh,
a year before he actually passed away. And he turned to me and he said, I've always encouraged you to do all kinds of things with your life. You're so creative. You would jump off the house, the roof of the house, and I would say you can make a living doing that. Or I would always encourage you to do things that were beyond the norm, and you actually did things that were like way off the map or the road map or the square that we put you in. And I have to say, we've really disagreed with your life choices. We wanted you to do something that's safe, secure, professional, intellectual, that uses your amazing mind and your ability to be a leader or world leader, running a company. The life that you've chosen, we do not agree with it. We've not agreed with it. But I have to say that I see that you've been true to your soul, and you are happy because you've been following your truth all this time. And your sister, she's done all the right things. She became the person you never wanted to be. She followed on. She went to the Harvard Business School. She has her own business. But we see you. You really have followed your truth, and we see you happy because we see you're helping so many people in your life. We're so proud of you. He said that,
Wow.
he was
I'm
ready to
getting
lose
emotional here, so I can imagine you. Wow.
it.
Thank you for sharing
Beautiful
that.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment.
But at the end of the day, from my limited understanding, is the whole point, the whole purpose of life is to find your true happiness. So people may not agree with it, but at the end of the day, it's about you finding your own path, your own happiness, your own, how do you say in French, your own spot in the sun. As long as you find that spot in the sun that makes you happy at the core, then that's success. That's what life is all about. So, wow, that's powerful. So that was for your
When I
father. How about your mother?
No, the opposite. My mom, it's a harder story to tell.
Mm,
She was gifted when she was in college. She met my dad on the state subway train in college. She
wow.
had a very gifted career in front of her as an advertising executive. She was brilliant, but also very artistic. My
Mm,
father, very, and she met my father, who was a gem of a man. And she asked her friends, she would tell me the story, what should I do? Should I go about my amazing advertising career, or should I marry this guy? He's a great guy. And her friends gave her this advice. They said, you can always have a career, but you're never going to meet someone as gorgeous
that's
as
true.
this man. So she did. And in doing so, she gave up her identity.
Oh,
And in giving up her identity, when her sister, her youngest sister named Gladys, her youngest sister, died of leukemia suddenly, and I was the firstborn. That took her 3 years to get pregnant with me. She was desperate to have a child, desperate to have someone come through, and she couldn't because her body was in such shock from her sister dying. She got all the right hormone levels up, and she basically went to the best doctors in New York City and got all of her life force up, and then out I came. She was desperate to have me, and she poured all these expectations into me to be that successful one that she couldn't be in her career into my life. So no matter what I did, no matter how many A's or A pluses I got in my life, she was an Aries, kept pushing me, pushing me, pushing me to do better. And I developed this huge insecurity, and I couldn't stand being around her because I always felt like I was never good enough. That's how I developed my core wound of I'm not good enough. And so she attempted to get me back and bring me back from California and all these places. And she kept wanting me to fit into the structure. She never fully accepted me she said, we didn't bring you up for this. And at her funeral, I remember saying to the congregation, I said, I'm so sorry that I chose in this life to be as far away from my mother as I could be. She wished the world for me. She had the best of intentions, but I could not fit in to her life formula. I couldn't do it. And I had to be able to hear my own voice, because she
Mm.
was plummeting and pouring her own views and beliefs upon me over and over and over and over and over for so many years. I had to go as far away as possible, as I have done in my life, California, Hawaii, New Zealand, Australia, Bali, Thailand, to be able to hear my own voices, to be able to recognize my own intuition without being attacked and assaulted by her. So at her funeral, I said, I've chosen not to know her in this lifetime, and I'm sad to say this to you, but in this moment, when you all see her here in peace at this moment, in front of all of you, I have to say that I'm very fortunate and very glad to be with this beautiful soul who wished the best for me, and in her own way did what she could do to be the best she could be. When she passed away, about 3 weeks later, I got a message from the woman who was my ex-wife that my mom met, that was from Australia. And my mom liked her so much that she gave this woman her own wedding ring. And this woman, I wouldn't say her name for reasons of privacy right now,
Sure.
in the phone call, she said, Gary, I have to tell you something. Your mom came to me in a dream. Talk about dreams. We've been talking about
Wow.
dreams tonight. She
Yes.
came to me in a dream and she spoke to me and she said, please tell Gary. Yeah, sneeze on the truth. See,
Okay.
when I went to visit her um, for her 90th birthday, I was so selfish. I didn't want to visit her in the 17th of April. When I thought the weather would be cold. I wanted to visit her in summertime where it'd be nicer. And I just
Mhm.
said to her, Mom, I'll visit you then. But she died on the way
Oh,
on to the airport. I was on the way to go to the airport the next day, and I got a message from my sister the night before that Mom passed away in her sleep.
oh
So my
no.
ex-wife had received this message from my mom. And the message was, please tell Gary that I'm so sorry that I was not the mother that he wanted me to be. Please tell him that I was just doing the best I could, and I want you to let him know. I want you to tell him that I was just doing the best I could, and I couldn't carry the weight anymore. That's why I had to go before you could come to visit me. But please let him
Oh,
know the best I could, and please tell him I'm sorry that I couldn't be the mom that he wanted me to be. So that's the story of my mom. Yeah.
wow. So powerful. So touching. Thank you for sharing it, Gary. Wow. That is beautiful.
Mm.
You know,
Yes, yes, yes. And my mom was so artistic and my dad was so theatrical. And I've got the best of both of their qualities. One day my mom turned to me and she said, Gary, you've got the worst of both of us. You've got my volatility and dad's, gullibility. And, I couldn't be around this woman. I would have a dream and she'd say, your dream means this. And I go, oh, no, it doesn't. And it's like, I just couldn't stand being around her because she would tell me how to live my life. And that my first words in this life were to her. No, no self. She wanted to show me how to walk. No, no self. And my whole life's been a stand to help people recognize our own individual, unique nature. And perhaps that's why I have to be grateful for the gift of being born to such parents that wanted me to fit into society. And I'm not a misfit, but I sure don't fit in the normal way that anyone that I've ever met does. And I have to thank them for paving the way for me to be able to be this individualized and this fully expressive and unique and feel good about it without feeling like I had to fit into a formula. So that's a bit of, my relationship with my parents and how
ah,
I've come to be who I've come to be.
beautiful. Would you say that while we're talking at this kind of, I don't know if it's channel, whatever, that in some ways, the fact that your parents, in a way, were seeing their dreams being realized in you because they had their own dreams, but they had to follow what society, the parents want them to do. Like, for example, for your father to follow successful professional career in accounting, your mother, advertising executive, and then she decided to marry your father and then focus on that. In
Right.
a way, they kind of, not abandoned, but didn't dare to follow their dreams, their heart, just to do what was expected of them to do by their parents, by their society, and then they expected you to do the same way, but in a way, deep down, they hoped that you would stand up for yourself and say, no, this is not my path. My path is this. Even though on the surface, they were not in alignment with you, but deep down, they were actually cheering for you because you were doing what they didn't dare to do. Do you see it that way?
I do. I remember one day my father turned to me and says, why don't you just get a normal job with, great medical benefits and a great retirement plan? I said, Dad, I'm on a mission. He said, what are you on a mission for? I said, I know what I'm here to do. And so just before my father passed away, my transformational body therapy method, which I had called the Wohlman method for the whole person, playing again with words, Wohlman, whole, had become government endorsed by the Department of Education and Training in Queensland, where I was living in Brisbane at the time. And it was such a heroic experience for me that what I was on a mission about all my life was actually being authenticized by the government in Australia, being recognized as a form of therapy, that there's no such thing like it here in Australia. When I told my father that and my parents that, I remember we're sitting at dinner in New York. My father turned to me and he said, Gary, I see that you've done what you're here to do. You've done something that's helping you feel happy with yourself. You're helping so many people. It's not the way we would have seen you, yet we're proud of you for having also the recognition. That's because it was the recognition for him that was important from society. And I started to get it like a year or two before he passed away. And that was a turning point in my relationship with him and his feeling proud of me in an outer sense and not just on an inner sense. That was a big deal.
Yeah, that probably must have been one of the most gratifying moments to be recognized, not recognized, but also to be appreciated, because we, subconsciously, in a way, we look up to our fathers. We want to make our father happy and proud of us. And you feeling most of your life that he was disappointed with you and your choices, and then finally him telling you that must have been an incredible, not sense of relief, but also sense of accomplishment and the greatest reward for you personally as a human being. That's how I would see it. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. There's another layer here to add. When I was in my early 30s and I had just come out as a court jester and I started to really individuate in the ways that I chose to individuate, my mother told me for the first time that her great-grandfather played clarinet for the Tsar in Russia, and his brother was an artist. My mom's an artist, quite a good artist, and my dad, very much a good actor in the theater and along with sports and things himself. But because they hid from me in my entire schooling, all of my schooling, and 10 years beyond until I was well into my 30s, that there was one artistic bone in my body, because they said, you can't make a living doing your art. You can't make a living doing creative things. You have to fit into the formula. That's what we said. That's what you said to theater before. And as soon as I heard that, that was also confirmation. Why did I choose being a court jester? Or did it choose me? I felt like I was called to do this. And when I heard that from my mom, that there was this artistic and creative elements in my ancestry, I felt like, wait a minute, I may not be pleasing you, mom, dad, to fit into the culture here in New York or society that is fitting into the mainstream, but I am connecting to my ancestors from deep back before of what these gifts are coming out, and I honor these, and I'm bringing them out for full self-expression to assist other souls who are traumatized and pushed down and oppressed like I have been, to be able to free the same in their lives, in their psyche, in this life.
Or perhaps it could be a reincarnation of your grandfather in this life.
I'm not sure I got that one.
Or perhaps it could be in some way the reincarnation of your grandfather in this life.
Oh, my great. I don't know that that's necessary. I feel like I've carried on, like when I do some of the family constellation type work, when I'm doing coaching and counseling and therapy with people online or in person, I have people line up the male people, the males on their right side of the body and back of them, and the females as a line, like dominoes on the left. And if I were to turn to my great-great-grandfather now and speak to him, I would say to him these words. I've never had this conversation before, so I'll do it with you fresh. Great-grandfather, I now address you, and I thank you for the role you played in being clarinetist to the Tsar, and your brother or your cousin playing, being an artist also in the higher realms there in the Russian realms. And I have taken the wisdom and the lineage that you started that was forgotten when my parents and my parents' parents got into the clothing business and getting into chartered public accounting and advertising. And I've taken the lineage that was way before and forgotten and pushed down, and I've taken it further. And I thank you so much for setting the stage for me to even be able to hear, when I had just come out as a court jester, that there was this creativity deep in my lineage. And I'm so grateful to you for setting the stage way back then. I honor you and I thank you for being able to set that in motion throughout our family. And I take it further now to assist other fellow souls who have also been traumatized and oppressed and pushed down to free their physical, emotional, creative expression. Thanks to you, great-grandfather. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. That is powerful. Wow. Thank you for sharing. That's wonderful.
Thank you for evoking.
Now, I love this kind of conversation because we're really tapped into the depth of your upbringing and your relationship with your parents, because that really helped us understand who we are now.
Yeah.
And what contributed to you being you and why you chose that path. We haven't even talked about your path. We're gonna do that in another episode. Wow, that's powerful, Gary. I'm really honored and blessed that I've had this wonderful conversation with you, and for you to open up to us. At times, both of us actually, we got emotional because you have a very powerful story, a story that is definitely worth sharing. And we're gonna dive even deeper next time on that. But for now, we're gonna end this conversation for this and do a part 2, eventually a part 3. So
I haven't said this is an ongoing conversation.
oh, absolutely. We might even do a podcast, just me and you. You know, just that would be a fun one, actually. So listen, brother, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, with impact, with your creativity, with your energy, with your smile, with everything you're doing. Stay safe. Stay awesome. God bless you. And I'm super looking forward to continuing our beautiful conversation with you in the next few days. Take care, brother.
Me too. Blessings and dances on your day.
Thank you, brother. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye.